Tonight we're being joined by two fabulous artists. Yes? Are we not? Can you hear me?
You're frozen.
You're totally frozen.
Okay. Is this better?
No. You're a statue.
Any better?
We can hear you fine, but we can't see you. I mean, you're just like a still
frozen.
photograph.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Hopefully my image will come back so we can see some of the work in the space. Otherwise, we'll just move forward with audio. So I'm not sure how much of my initial introduction was heard, but my name is Amy Varsek. I'm the exhibition director at the Duluth Art Institute. And tonight we have two artists visiting with us, and they are both on view in our gallery spaces at the St. Louis County Historical Building, the Depot, at the Duluth Art Institute fourth floor galleries. So Sue Rauschenfels, she is hosting our Sisterhood show, which Sue was raised in a house full of sisters. So that's certainly where the inspiration for her show came from. And Kari Halker-Saathoff, her show is Penelope and Odysseus, The Long Journey. And it's the story of Penelope, Odysseus's wife, and it's offset with the historical snippets of the Women's March from 2018. So Sue, I wanted to start with you because I was hoping that we could see some of your work in the gallery. Am I visible yet, or am I still frozen?
You're still frozen.
Okay. Well, Sue, behind you, you do have some work. Could you talk a little bit about the work that you're creating now and whether or not it's in line with the work that you have in our galleries right now?
I started working on a home series. I called it Home Series in January prior to the pandemic. And yes, I have actually 2 or 3 walls of about 25 pieces that I've created. And my inspiration was not, again, pandemic driven, but I just thought it was a good thing for me to, in my own voice, try to portray various paintings that could incorporate anybody's home. I've got a couple of cityscapes, farm, animals, and just maybe some Duluth inspiring type icons in Duluth. And one looks a little like Greece over here. So I'm working a little more in abstracts as a little bit more than, not that Sisterhood isn't very abstract style, but I like to put a lot of texture and collage in a lot of my work. Many of these have collage, many of them don't. But I can now see you, and I can see paintings.
Good.
Yes, you're right behind a couple there I could talk about.
Great. And I can't get my camera to turn around, so I'm just going to have to do this here. Sue, maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about your childhood and the inspiration behind these paintings.
You know, the inspiration, just being raised in a very female dominant family, 7 girls born in 8 years, back in the 60s, where kids were just left to negotiate and get out there, make friends, and work through relationships pretty much on your own. There was no helicopter parenting going on, and I think we learned a lot with support for each other. At many times, there isn't always that happening, but we were always there for each other through thick and thin. If there wasn't a playmate around, we had each other. We could find playmates. And the inspiration too was when we grew up, we also had some trials and tribulations. centered around an illness my mom was undergoing, and she has since passed away. And I think just the message I want to express is that for women, if we could just be lifting each other up a little bit more, a little more empathy, be kind, supportive for all things, whether it's, you know, political gain, socially, and economically. The movement for me is, I think we can go further if we are a unified gender. So I want to be clear that I've always gotten a lot of support from my friends and art friends in particular, but it doesn't always, it isn't the case. I think we've all, women have had some middle school situations where we maybe could name a few things that we could have been uplifted and supported a little bit more from our friends and friendships, and even our sisters. So I just started, and for a healing process for me really came out through my work. When my mom passed away, trying to make relationships mend with my sisters and I really put forth a lot of my grief in my work, and it has been very healing. We have worked out a few things and hopefully continue to do so.
Well, thank you so much, Sue. And one of the things that really resonates with me about these two shows being exhibited side by side is that sense of bringing forth a community of women, and you know what women can do when we bind together and act as one rather than fighting against one another. So Kari, I wondered if you could jump in a little bit here and talk about how that relates to your work in this particular show, at least.
Well, I'm always have been about girl power, and stories about, I love a good story, and who doesn't? And the story of Odysseus has always stuck with me. And I always thought about Penelope and what is her story? And I had an opportunity when I first pitched this show to the Canton, Ohio Museum of Art, and they liked it, and so I started creating it. And then I really got Odysseus' story down pat. I mean, that's pretty easy, and it's such a narrative. It's a visual, and it's lyrical. So how could I make Penelope's story more powerful? And as I started, I had an idea. And then when the women's movement, the march and everything started to occur, and Trump was elected, and that was 2017, I think it said 2018. And I needed to have a screaming voice that was powerful in a quiet way. And I like to, I can be very brash, and I think that's okay. I'm just very assertive, and I speak my mind. But I wanted my artwork to reflect Penelope and the struggle that she had dealing with these suitors. So how does that transcend to current day? And it's a story, it's a narrative that has never gone away. You would think that we could evolve and women stop being persecuted. And I'd love to say that we have equity, but we don't. And that's why it was important for me to tell that story. And I was very fortunate because I have a mom who's super ballsy, and she takes no crap from anyone. So she kind of taught me to be the same way. And I really think that this show shows that I, as an artist, have a voice and have a story that needs to be told. And so I'm pretty proud of it. And I have more to that I want to add to it as time has progressed here.
Oh, because that was actually one of my questions for the two of you. You both applied to our submittable site for exhibition. It must have been in 2018 2019, I believe, is when you did your submissions. So a lot has changed between then and now. And yet I feel like both of your shows are still very relevant. Are you surprised by that? Like when you're working on specific themes, you know, how do you think about the longevity of the work and of the subject matter?
I think that's a great question. I think that no matter what, if you've got a story to tell, and I work on a narrative, and it seems like, Sue, you work on a narrative as well.
I do.
And I think if you've got a good story, that work will hold time. It'll hold its place. Just like a great Georgia O'Keeffe piece, that holds a place in time and it doesn't lose its value. In fact, I think it becomes more interesting and more relevant. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with that, Kari, for sure. And I think that we haven't come a long way, baby. I think that we are making baby steps, and I think that we do need to, again, to support each other. We need to be unified, and like you said, your mom is a powerful, say it all type person, and I had that same mom. And when you're raising 7 girls, it gets to be a real feminine. Yeah, in 8 years, it was crazy. And there was a lot of, we were just playing outside like tomboys, and, you know, many of us were not in frilly dresses and doing little girl things. So, but I also think being that we have strong personalities and actually mixed personalities, you also can create a little more strife as well. So we need to figure out not only the pecking order, but how can we best contribute all of our assets and make it good for everybody, make it good for all women. And I think we're working in that direction with now the the vice presidential.
Can anybody hear?
Yes.
Yes.
You hear
All right.
Alyssa,
anyway,
is there? Oh, go ahead, Sue.
I'm good. Anyway, so I think we have made a lot of strides, but we still have a long ways to go. So I do think it's a timeless story, as Kari said.
Yeah. You know what? I was making a little observation. My work is black and white with the variety of value of shades of grays, and your work is very colorful. Mm-hmm. So it's so interesting where you have such a color field, and I just kind of, to me, my is just so black and white is what the issue is. Of course, variety of value in there is too, but I just think that's super interesting, the contrast of it adds a uniqueness to it.
Yep.
And Kari, you were the inspiration behind the pink color. Can you speak on that?
Well, I never embraced pink. I was somewhat of a tomboy, and then I needed to, when the women's movement happened, or the Women's March and all of that, I'm like, I can embrace pink. I really love the color pink, and I feel proud of the color pink, that I like pink, because I think growing up too, there was some little bit of a shame of, oh, you're wearing pink, you're so girly, it's feminine. And for me, that pink is power. It has a voice, and I think I'm embracing it. I'm a woman, and I have a voice, and it needs to be heard. And I'm an artist.
Yep.
Right. And how about you, Sue? I'm not sure if the color was a surprise for you. I can't remember how much we had talked about it before installing your work, but it's a fairly unconventional color palette with the black walls and the
yes. I was very pleasantly surprised when I too have not been a real pink girly type person. But when I walked out of the elevator to come and see the exhibit, and then I saw the black wall and the pink, I just thought, wow, this is awesome. The first thing you see out of that elevator, and I love it. And what you said too, Kari, I liked about we need to embrace it. And I've come to enjoy pink as well. But for this exhibit, taking out maybe the storytelling of our art, it looks very classy. And then you're putting the black and white with that pink. I love it. You did an awesome job. So thank you, Kari, if that was your idea, and Amy.
Well, just the
I love
pink.
I love it.
Absolutely. Kari sent me the pink color, and I actually wanted to carry it through all three spaces. I wanted to carry it into Emily's show as well. And although I think the pink would go very nicely with the warm stone that Emily's work is on, the pink color, it just didn't resonate as well with the rest of the space. And so that's just a curatorial choice, and knowing when not to force an idea, because I think the pink was such a strong idea brought forth by Kari. But then I had to let it go for this space because it just didn't quite work with the work. So
yeah, it looks awesome.
Yep.
Oh. And yet, Sue, you also have tones of pink that are carried through not only the Sisterhood show, but the pieces that are behind you as well.
Yes, I know, Amy. It's not even a deliberate thought. I truly sometimes, I do like blue, and I think that shows, but I don't have an intention when I go to a piece and say, I want to make sure I add pink to this, or I'm going to, but I think that I'm tying them in by color as well as the theme, although they're represented in different venues of life, what city and water and farm. But yeah, I think I've just dipped into some pink lately, and I love it. I've been getting some good compliments on it as well. So now I'm going to make it intentional.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah. And yeah. Kari, I know you are at the very beginning of the school year. You're even in your school office right now.
Yep, I'm in my.
Are you still creating personal work right now?
Yes, I am. I actually got invited to a show in Ohio to do a piece. The gallery down there is doing the 75th anniversary of Animal Farm, and gave it out a section out to 75 different artists. So I threw a piece, and I'm starting to illustrate it. And I've actually, I think being back in school has helped motivate me to create again. I think that many of us artists during COVID kind of, and I think we all are still struggling with that anxiety and depression, and it's really hard to get motivated, and you have all this time, but you're really locked in and you're feeling somewhat isolated. And I think for me, I get a lot of inspiration and motivation from my students because they're so curious, and I really try to foster that curiosity in kids, and that also makes me curious, helps me to get invigorated to create again. And so, yeah, I'm back in the studio and back at school. So yeah, I'm still creating.
Great.
Thank God.
Thank good. Yeah, absolutely. And how about you, Sue? I mean, obviously you're continuing to work. Are you feeling isolated as well, or how are you powering through and getting inspired?
No, I'm not feeling I'm not isolated in thought very much. I mean, it comes and goes, but I think being retired and a grandma, I get to see my three little joys still every Tuesday, my grandkids. Not a lot has had to change when I'm not been away from a job and working from home. So I feel pretty grateful and blessed that I have that. But I have been able to create. I've worked on this home series. I need to stop that, I think, because it's when do you shut that down? But I moved into doing some plein air in my gardens this summer, and just some funky little acrylic pieces sitting in the garden and pretty abstract, but I love them. It's just some shapes, not realistic, but I can kind of tell they're a ladder in the garden or this and that. But just by being outdoors, it's helped a lot. And we kayak and hike and do all kinds of fun things. So I've not really felt too isolated. So I feel grateful that things are on track. And fortunately, we haven't had anybody in our family get ill as well. So I know that can change. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely, one of the biggest disappointments from COVID from the art world is the lack of receptions and celebrations. And I think it's really hard for artists that have worked very, very hard to complete their exhibitions and then not be able to celebrate with family and friends when it's installed. Kari, for you, especially being down closer to the cities, I know you've seen the space at least once. How does it feel for you not to be able to have a celebration?
Wow, of course, incredibly disappointed. But I think I'm not the only one who feels that, and I'm lucky and fortunate to have this opportunity. But it is still distressing and sad because I wanted to have my parents come see the show, and you know, it is what it is, and they are in their 80s, late 80s, so I didn't want them to travel, and now, especially with COVID, to go up and see it. So. It's difficult for all of us. We do have to celebrate the small joys of it being exhibited, and some friends and family getting to see it, and then the online presence, which is nice.
Absolutely. So if anyone hasn't checked out our Smartify app yet, we do have a venue with images from both Sue and Kari's shows that will be on our venue for quite a while. And those people that are in Duluth, you can visit our gallery spaces. Both shows are up until at least September 27th. So throughout the rest of the month.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so Alyssa, I think you're still listening in. Do we have any questions?
Oh, wow. That's all right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Not muted. Okay, I don't think I'm muted anymore.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I didn't know if they could hear me on YouTube. So I had a question for Kari. So I saw your work 2 weeks ago in the space, and I was wondering how what materials you were using to do the illustrations on the ceramic.
Great question. I use a heavy 300-pound hot press Strathmore paper, and I use actually mechanical pencils to draw. I like to always have a constant sharp point. It's so stupid, but I hate sharpening my pencils. I always want a sharp point. And then I liked having the layering of the cutouts to kind of create some depth. I love to draw, so that illustrating those, the Odysseus and then Penelope especially, I feel like I finally have mastered drawing on ceramics. So yeah. So.
Yes.
And Kari, can you tell us your technique for illustrating on the pots?
Sure. Well, I go through a first firing so that when I handle them, they're not in the green state, so I don't break them. And then I first draw them all out in pencil, and then I use, because the graphite will burn off, and then I go over my lines with a underglazed pencil, and then I have liquid underglaze ready to go. But actually, you can pull quite a bit of color out of and value out of the underglaze pencil with just water over those lines to pull out the value. And so it's just kind of layering. It's just like painting, layering on the value. So it's a little painstaking because you really have to work fast. And because if you let something sit too long, or if you wait too long, there's a lot of variances because the surface is so porous. So you can't use too much water and you can't use too little. You need it to it's like working with India ink in a lot of ways.
Oh.
If that's the best analogy I have.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wear gloves because you have to be very cautious of smearing as you're handling the pot. And if you have any of those oils on your hands, you can create some issues as well. So you have to be a little OCD, and I'm a lot OCD, so.
And so Kari, the work that you're producing right now for Animal Farm, what medium are you using?
I'm through a clay, I threw a pot, and I'm doing the exact same process.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think you mentioned that earlier, so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And are you kind of sticking with that black and white theme?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to escape it because I really love it. And I will have elements. I'm doing, I don't know if you're familiar with the story with the pigs, and I am doing you guys, it doesn't matter. So there'll be a little bit of a hint of a pink in there as well. And that's kind of significant, obviously.
So can I ask a question, Kari?
Sure.
When you're working on your Animal Farm, will it just be the ceramic style, or would you be doing some drawings? How you've interwoven your drawing sketchings with ceramic pieces, or
Yep.
it will be the same? Oh, I
Yep.
love that.
I sat down and I knew exactly what I wanted, and I made one, and then I made the backup plot, and then I started sketching in my sketchbook, and then I did a I did a farm visit and photographed a bunch of pigs, so I have my reference photos.
Yes.
So, yeah. So
When we came around the corner too, my cousin and I, we came from the corridor, and we right away looked at your drawings and the detail, and I thought, oh, mechanical pen for sure, pencil, I mean, it has to be so precise. But then we viewed all the vessels, and we just ran right to them. We were so attracted to the vessels and just how you put this together, and it made that work. They're beautiful.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad you told us how you sketch on them in the process, and it sounds very painstaking as well.
It is, but isn't that the joy?
Yes.
Creating
and that
struggle. Yeah. I did quite a bit of research. I actually went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and they've got one of the largest Greek pottery collections, and I explored that quite in-depthly, and really, not that I wanted to copy it at all, but I wanted it to have a voice very similar to that, or be inspired by it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the pots grow, the height grows as the story grows.
Yep.
And so, anyway, it was.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do another broad story. I've done a section of Dante's Inferno, so I really like the heavy hitters.
Well, I'm really interested in seeing the work that you produce for Animal Farm.
Yeah.
I think some of your strongest illustrations in the Odysseus story are the animals.
Yeah.
The pigs, and I think there's the sheep and the fish. There's just so much movement and texture in those images. So
thank you. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. And it is work though. And a lot of people like say, oh, you're so lucky. It's fun. It is fun, but it is also very aggravating and it is a struggle and it is work. Creating artwork is not easy. And I've had tearful moments where I've had to start over because I know that I just need to because it's not what I want. And that's my perfectionism coming through as well. But it is work and it is hard.
It is. And there's a lot of trial and error.
Mm.
I've heard people say things like, oh my gosh, you just have that in you. I wish I was born with some of that creativity. And I really didn't even start probably creating anything. Well, I guess when I look back as a small child, I probably had a few dioramas and I created lots of things outside with sticks and rocks. But, I didn't start at all thinking a profession or a passion hobby could grow out of that. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't been as many years. And, but it's a love relationship with your work. It's trial and error. And you really only need to please yourself because you need to enjoy the process somehow and the outcome as well. And sometimes it isn't what you expected, but you either live with it or you change it. So
right.
It doesn't come naturally. It's not just in you, and you don't need to learn, but you do. You need to learn and use new materials and talk to other artists. That's what COVID is about. That's what's bothering me. No receptions, getting art groups together. We used to meet at the Lincoln Center, an abstract group, and learn from each other. So I'm just dying to get back to that. So you're just on your own journey in your own room, and then we'll do Zoom meetups with artists as well. Are you doing any Zoom meetings with art groups? That's kept me sane.
Well, I'm married to an artist. So, yeah,
it.
and then my son is an artist as well. We're an art family. So
you have your own cohort.
Yes, I do. I have my own cohort. And I'm on a screen all the time. So I don't necessarily enjoy being on a screen. And
no.
I'm even over Zoom cocktail hours. I'm done with that.
Oh, no, that lasted one time with me too.
And I'd rather see work. I want to see it up close.
I know.
You want that senses feeling. I want to smell the paint. I want to see the texture. Does it have sound? I want to hear I want to feel, I want to see everything about it because it becomes so flat when it's digital. And of course, there's great digital art, but I am a really hands-on, down and dirty when it comes to the art that I really appreciate.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, that certainly is one of the biggest struggles again of COVID is the lack of interaction between artists and getting feedback, and Zoom can be a great tool, but nothing really replaces seeing the work in person. So I think we are so very fortunate to be able to have our galleries open. Just a reminder to anyone who's watching that this work will be on view until September 27th, so you can come see it in person. The Depot is open Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 3. So please come on over and see these two exhibitions before we close the doors.
Well, thank you for that this opportunity.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be a part of the Duluth Art Institute.
Yes, well, we're so lucky to have both of you. And Kari, for those of you who don't know, Kari's son is going to be showing in December. So that's really exciting to be able to continue that relationship as well. So,
well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Cool.
My son Harrison is an artist who happens to have autism, and he is an incredible photographer. And It's exciting work. It has a voice. Like,
I'll be sure to visit.
please do. Maybe we can meet up.
Yes,
I'd love to meet you.
too. Yep.
Well, thank you both for joining us tonight, for being here, for being patient with the installation of both of your shows, and definitely look forward to keeping up with both of you and watching you on your social media, and then once again meeting up whenever we can. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Right.
Good to see you, Kari.
Nice to see you too.
All right. Thank you, everyone.